Welcome to my Celestron PowerSeeker 127EQ review. So today I'm going to be sharing with you as much as I can about this telescope, things like what I like about it and all of the different pros. I'm also going to be discussing some of the areas I'm not too fond of. I'm going to be talking about some of the things that you can expect to see with this telescope, and I'm also going to be sharing things like who I think that this telescope is best for. So before I delve into all of that, I do just want to quickly touch upon the technical specification of this telescope, and I'll try and make it as simple as possible. So this telescope is a 127mm or 5-inch aperture Newtonian reflector. So those numbers are important because they essentially dictate the light gathering abilities of this telescope, and that has a massive impact on what you are able to see. Other than that, it's important to know that it has a highest useful magnification of around 300 times, and that's when leveraging the 3 times Barlow lens that we get included, and more on that in a second. And it is also operated via a German equatorial mount. So that's this whole element here, and that is essentially what is alluded to in the name of the telescope. It has an assembled weight of around 10 kilograms, so it is relatively heavy, and again, more on that in due course. So what do you get with this telescope? Well, you get everything that you are going to need. So as an example, you get the tripod, you get the accessory tray, you get a 10mm eyepiece, you get the 3 times Barlow lens, as previously discussed, you get a 20mm erecting eyepiece, so in other words, it flips the image the right way around. And you also get this finder scope as well for helping you to identify all of the objects in the sky. Other than that, you get all of these different rods and things like that to manipulate the telescope so that you can see, you can follow a celestial object, locate it, etc., etc. There's also this cover. You do get covers for all the different pieces as well, so you do actually get a cover for this eyepiece and obviously over the lens as well. So that's what you get included. So what do I like about this telescope? Well, firstly, I think it's really important to note it is very, very affordable. So it's one of the cheapest telescopes that you will be able to get, particularly with that optic setup. So yeah, it's really, really affordable, and it's also very accessible. It's always in stock, and it's just one of those telescopes that you'll always be able to pick up. Not only that, it's very, very well built. It's got a very solid construction. All of the material, it looks really, really nice as well, as we can see, and everything is just really, really solid. It does have this weight that you need to put on, but it just gives it this really kind of robust feel about it. It's not made from cheap materials either, which is really important. And it just, as I say, it's really nice to have this, in your conservatory or wherever you position it, because it just looks really, really nice. I also really like the equatorial mount. Now, this isn't going to be for everyone, but it does enable some really kind of fine tuning and tracking. It just gives you a lot of control, and you can manipulate this telescope in various different ways to wherever the object is in the sky. So I really like that, and I think that's a nice pro of it. I also like its magnification capability, so that's obviously due in part to the Barlow lens. But yeah, you can really, really magnify in on celestial objects, which is really, really nice as well. I also like the fact that it comes with the Celestron technology, the application I should say, which I do believe comes with most Celestron products, but Starry Night I believe it's called. But yeah, it's just really, really good to help you basically understand and learn where objects are in the night sky. So you do get that included as a CD-ROM. So what about the cons? What do I not like about the telescope? Well, first and foremost, it is relatively large, as we can see, and it is heavy. So it isn't very portable. I think it's fair to say that this isn't the telescope for you if you want to kind of move it around a lot, or you want to take it with you on your travels. So yeah, it is big and it is quite bulky. So you do need to consider that. Next, I must admit the assembly and setup wasn't as easy and as straightforward as I would have hoped. So it did take me around 15 minutes the first time I did it. Of course, the more you do it, the more practice you have, the easier it will be. But if you're a beginner and you just want to, get started with your telescope, then there's just something you need to take into account. You may require an extra pair of hands also, as an example. So do consider that. I did scratch my head a few times with the instructions that come included. You will get there, but just bear in mind, it's not a quick setup, and for that reason, you may just want to leave it set up once you've done it. Other than that, the other thing to kind of mention is the polar alignment, because of it's an equatorial mount, does take a little while to get used to, particularly if you're new to it. That being said, you can actually track an object very, very easy once you do have a little bit of experience under your belt. So just bear that in mind. There is a learning curve to this telescope. So what can you actually see with it? Well, this telescope stands out for observing the moon, planets, and also stars. That is what it was designed for. We have to remember that. Now, in terms of the moon observations, I think that's where this telescope truly excels. It's what I like to use it for. You can also get a lunar filter, which just makes observations even better. But the moon, as I say, is what you want to probably observe most with this telescope. You can see some distant stars. So Altair and Antares are two examples which I like to observe. And it does help you basically find other stars. Basically, anything that's kind of hidden from the naked eye, you can start to observe with this telescope. Lastly, planetary viewing is where this telescope kind of excels. In that respect, Venus is distinctly visible. It's a little bit blurry, but that is to be expected at this aperture. And it obviously depends on atmospheric conditions as well. You always have to remember that. Other than Venus, Jupiter, Mars, and the rings of Saturn are some of my personal favourites to observe as well. So who would I say is an ideal user of this telescope? I would say it's any kind of new astronomer who's on a budget. If you're yet to buy your first telescope, then this is absolutely an option for you, particularly if you do want more control, and maybe you want that kind of, you want to be quite hands-on and you want to manipulate the telescope. It's a different experience than if you've got a tracking mount or anything like that. Do bear that in mind, but it is quite nice. It's quite nice to be in full control, and it just make your astronomical experience kind of a lot more authentic, I believe. So I really, really like that about it. And if I just quickly show you, there's so many different means of manipulating this telescope and just getting the right alignment. So you've got this bar here. I don't know if you can see, that's basically putting that up. That's positioning this optical tube more upright. And you can obviously manipulate that both ways. You've also got these rods here, which just enable some really close fine tuning. And you've also got these other little, there's loads. Look, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different means of just aligning it and making sure you are in the right position. So I really, really like that as well. So yeah, they're my ideal users, new astronomers. I would say that if you have an existing telescope above this price point, and especially if it's got more kind of power, higher aperture as an example, I wouldn't downgrade to this. I wouldn't say you need it at all. So yeah, it's anyone, it'd be good for as a gift as well. Basically anyone who's getting into astronomy or is looking for their first telescope. I think that's where this telescope stands out, really. So yeah, ultimately it's a valuable tool for observing the night sky. While it does present some challenges in terms of setup and portability, it has got a lot of things going for it. I really do like it. I think it's a good option for you if you are new to astronomy, and it's very, very affordable, and it just looks fantastic too, and very, very durable. So yeah, that is my Celestron PowerSeeker 127EQ review.